Welcome back to another episode of Rail Industry Connected. I'm Dan Clark, and thank you for joining us. Rail depots are considered to be one of the most important parts of the rail network, but they can often be overlooked. Completing complex maintenance programs all year round mean that depots have to be some of the most well-organised and efficient operations to be able to ensure trains run to the levels required. Optimisation of these depots over the next few years is therefore crucial. Coupled with the nationalisation challenge, a key theme that we identified for 2025 earlier this month, the issue of making sure that depots work more efficiently than ever before as demands increase will continue to be a challenge. Fenix Rail Systems is an experienced provider of depot control systems, working as an exclusive provider of the FenLock Control System in the UK and Ireland. Today, we hear from Tom Smith, who's the Managing Director of Fenix Rail Systems, to discover how this SME is addressing some of the most complex operational challenges for TOCs and maintenance providers in the UK. Tom, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
So Fenix is offering something that isn't available from other depot control systems providers in the UK and Ireland. Tell me what makes this system different from others and why it's so beneficial to depot operators.
So, Dan, Fenix is offering something exclusively to the market, which is driven by safety and driven by the scenarios of the train moving within the depot as well. So the system gives that effect for taking people off the railways, which is generally a issue regarding some depots, not all depots, but some depots. So the movement with humans around the depot, and of course the actual safe system of work around the depots as well. So that means that the scenarios of the trains coming into the depot must meet service agreements and service timetables. So the actual Fenix system looks at both the safety of the depot, the movement of people around the depot, the IoT data requirements of the depot as well. So we give back the data of the performance of the machine, and again we start looking about the whole development of the depot going forward. So the longevity of the system and of course the cost efficiency of one of those are one of the major factors within the depots going forward.
So obviously, we're talking about IoT, their systems, things like that. Tell us a bit more about how technology is within depots now. I mean, obviously we know some have got older infrastructure than others, but how is this new technology being introduced and what do they have currently?
So there is no current system out there at the moment that captures all the data of the point systems and the interlocking systems. So that's why Fenix were sort of first to market. And what that does, it reduces the time and the maintenance required to run faults. Depots generally have quite a lot of faults. Because of the over maintenance sometimes required within the depot. So there's a generality of trying to maintain the point systems and the interlocking systems too much. If you allow the system to work at its high rate performance already, because we're dealing with lots of German suppliers, they are very much modular systems. So that means if you tamper with it, you tend to make things go wrong. So the data, the IoT system is connected to the AI connection points, which means that we can capture all the performance of the point systems and the interlocking systems in live time events. So that helps when there's an issue with the depot. That helps with the issue of the train moves with the depot. It also helps with disaster within the depot as well. So if there was a derailment for any reason, we would understand how that derailment happened, why it happened, and where it went wrong. And that's the difference between the Fenix system and the FenLock system.
And obviously introducing a new technology like that, I think a lot of people can see the advantages of the progress and everything else, but also, especially in many industries like this, it can also be met with a sense of cautiousness. Obviously, as we say, this is how things are done, and have been done for many years. But how does introducing technology such as this actually benefit them going forward?
So first and foremost, it's incredibly difficult to bring innovation into the industry because there's a view that it's always been done this way. And there's a lot of manual interjection with depots. So we're trying to reduce the amount of time people spend on the depot itself, as in around the track and around the trains. And introducing things like this or technology like this that is so advanced can actually come up with a little bit of reservation, because for obvious reasons. You're bringing in a system that it's not used on the main highway. We're just looking at depot control and the management of the depot completely.
And obviously, when you look at certain challenges such as nationalisation and what have you, how do you see these challenges potentially causing you problems in implementing new systems into depot? I mean, as an example, alongside nationalisation, if you look at how long it takes for certain products to get onto the railway in the first place, as an SME, that can be incredibly challenges. What challenges do you kind of foresee as part of your business development strategy?
The first thing to do regarding innovation is to prove the concept, and we've proven the concept within one of our depots. The second stage is awareness, and awareness within the industry tends to be with forums like this, people talking around, the tier one organisations, Network Rail taking and encouraging look at it, and also the new nationalisation could be that innovation could be the forefront of what the industry is all about. Now, rail industry, generally is a slow pickup of innovation. So that's what we've come up against at this moment in time. But when it starts to roll, forgive the pun, but as it starts to roll, people pick up on why it's needed, and then of course the cost savings, and then the safety aspects, and all the things that are rail orientated, challenges. That's the difference between the two, from nationalisation to where we are today.
And with that in mind, what advice would you give to other SMEs? Obviously, looking at depot operations, I'll use Orange Train Wash, who we spoke to a few weeks ago as an example. And I know you're involved with them as well.
Yeah.
But actually, when you look at collaboration, especially within depots, and making sure these efficiencies all work nicely together, what advice would you provide to SMEs in order to get themselves into system, obviously depots like this? And how important is collaboration for SMEs in the industry as a whole?
Collaboration is key. If you take depots, for example, the turnkey solution within a depot, it's essentially a car park for trains. You need a shed to maintain, you need to clean the train, and then you need to move the train in the correct way so it gets out in time and comes back in time. So there's simple environments, but if you don't collaborate with each individual part of that, the whole thing goes horribly wrong. And my recommendation and my advice is that if you want to move forward on any innovation, is to get it trialed and get people to come and see it. The industry is very much a self-touch. Have a look at, see if they like it, then apply it into a concept trial or a pilot scheme. Those are the ways to get into the market that gets the whole market clinging on to, yes, it's a good idea, or no, it's a bad idea. You have two ways to get it onto the market.
Now, obviously, it presents an interesting challenge for you as well, because obviously you are an exclusive provider of FenLock Control System, which obviously is from Germany. Um, how difficult has it been to kind of demonstrate that actually, while this works in German depots, that it will work in UK depots as well? Obviously, our systems are slightly different and everything else. So I guess that presents its challenges, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it does work in light railway in the UK already. So again, if anyone's listened to this, but light and heavy rail, completely two different systems, and never the twain do they meet. But the main thing for us is that the system is heavy on the safety, heavy on performance, heavily on modular design. So it takes away an awful lot of issues that are currently out there at the moment. And yes, there's a the German design is one of accuracy. So you have to install it a certain way. You have to make sure that it's maintained correctly, and of course that overall performance is a longer life on the machine, and that's what we're more interested in. The safety aspect as well as the longevity of the machine.
And tell us a bit more about your experience of getting a system like that from Europe into the UK. I mean, obviously, I think there's a lot of businesses that do look outside in Europe into the UK and think actually this is a prime opportunity. And you look at depots as a whole, there's a significant amount of depots in the UK for such a small island.
Yeah.
What experiences have you found in terms and any advice actually getting anything into the UK from Europe?
So first things first, foremost, it's got to be product approved. It's got to be assurance along the way, and you've got to make sure that it meets certain standards. So number one criteria is that. The next thing is the model working. Does it work in certain types of arenas and atmospheres and of course environments? Those are the main things to put in front of the network rail and the train operators. And those types of environments are very important that you can demonstrate. So the demonstration of safety, and then whether it integrates with systems and whether it applies to the scenarios we've got over in the UK, because the European and the overseas market is completely different to the UK market, and we've got to be mindful of that when you start to talk about people and the innovations you're bringing to market.
Obviously, you have a lot of depots to kind of focus on over the next few years, and implementing a system like this into depots to make them more efficient. How do you maintain a consistent level of safety across these depots? Obviously, you say they're quite modular, but actually, with different depots, there's different challenges to consider, isn't there?
There is, and it's all to do with the way and where the depots are. So some depots are really constrained with space. Some are in a high density areas of of towns and cities, some are very easy to work on because they're out in the country, so there's not so difficult. But the issue that we've got is sometimes it's the movement from the main railway to the depot itself. That's the transition from sometimes one system to another, and the integration of one system to the other as well. So it's important that the safety aspect is the transition is nice and smooth. And again, going back to that movement of people within the depot, some points are still, and to this day, and will be for quite some time, I suspect, be hand movable. So if we can reduce the amount of people on the track, almost eradicate that, then I think we've done our job. The system will take a long time to implement across every single depot. We're not proposing to say that that's what we're trying to do. What we're saying is if there's any revamps or reshaping of depots or updating them or new depots going in, then we can then apply this system. What we are saying is that our IoT system and our data performance system, a first fix system is called, can apply to every depot that's got a digital amplification. So we can then start to pick up the data. We can tell the client exactly where things are going wrong, and then we can send a data form to the maintainer and tell them exactly what tool to take out, where the fault is, stopping that time of looking for the fault and identifying where the actual fault is. So this is a time-saving, cost-saving exercise as well.
And from the case studies that you obviously have for this, and obviously you'll have some from Germany and obviously some from here as well. What are the case studies saying in terms of cost savings and safety efficiencies and time efficiencies as well? What kind of levels are you looking at?
A huge amount, and this is the benefit of getting around the table with the clients as early as we possibly can, because we're almost stopping the maintenance to a point where if something goes wrong, you may not need to go and maintain it. You actually take away the maintenance requirements altogether. I'm not saying you won't get faults. You will get faults every now and again, but generally they're because of human intervention, not because of the machine. So the performance of the machine is calculated, monitored, measured, but we can't do that to humans. So what we can do is offer a system that can be monitored, and the data can be used, for those particular things.
And obviously, from a human perspective as well, actually implementing new technology like this, it can take time to learn, obviously, how to operate that new technology to a certain efficiency and what have you. That could be identified as one potential challenge as we go forward, and not only from a depot perspective, but actually rail as a whole. How do you address that challenge? And then what other challenges do you foresee within depot operations over the next few years as more of these systems come into play?
So that is an absolute number one issue for us, because generally what happens with the staff and the circular movement of staff sometimes is that you lose that experience of training. So the thing that we've felt that the best approach is to make it more online training, and that if whoever comes into the depot gets that opportunity to take that training forward. We when you install a new depot, it's very easy because you give the client the training, you give the tier one the training, and then we pass on all our knowledge of what is needed going forward. But if the staff move, then you have to retrain. And of course, if you're not in an agreement, that's when things get lost. So in our mind is that we keep that interaction with the client all the way through, and we don't stop, and we offer that training as and when those things need to be updated. We keep that longevity of that communication going forward.
So a huge message of partnership and collaboration, really. It's an
Absolutely.
ongoing process. It's not a put the
Yeah.
product in place and see you later. It is,
Yeah.
it's an ongoing process, isn't it? So,
And I think that's happened in the railway quite a lot, where you get, you're doing installation, and then you'll come out of an agreement or a contract, and then suddenly, people to keep looking around, to see where they go for help. And that's what we shouldn't do. And the collaboration needs to happen an awful lot more in the railways. And I think as a tier two organisation where we are at the moment, we're very much about collaboration, because to collaborate, you get more work. To collaborate, you get more communication with, what's going on in the market. And that's the best approach and if I could tell anybody what to do going forward, is that, if you collaborate with all of us, you're going to get more of a technical and an expertise sharing of information.
exactly. And I think as well, one of the key themes that we touched on was nationalisation for 2025. And obviously, there is a certain element of uncertainty about how that will look, and obviously whether management will change and things like that. Do you foresee nationalisation or renationalisation being a problem with depots, obviously, and maintenance providers potentially being affected by this? Do you foresee that being a challenge going forward?
Absolutely. The challenge will be who our client will be. It's very obvious at the moment that the train operator is the number one client for us. They have a duty to service their contract, which means that they must present their trains, they must ensure they maintain their trains, and they must ensure they get their train out in time to service their timetable. So those things are very simple for us to understand. When you start taking away who those channels of informations are, that's when we get nervous as a tier organisation to give any support. And he said it's important that if it is nationalised, if it does move into the step where it's just one client, then we need to understand who those accountabilities are with. So the nervousness is still there, definitely, Dan.
Obviously, still as we go ahead as normal, and obviously it's all looking promising from a Fenix perspective anyway. And you've obviously got a product there that, from a time saving, safety perspective, and a cost effective perspective, that will obviously make a difference. So, if people want to find out more and obviously get in touch with yourselves, how do they go about that? A bit more detail about your website and who to contact, really.
Yeah. You can find Fenix online straight away with an F-E-N. You can also contact me directly if you want to. I'll be happy to do so and have a chat with anybody. And again, I'm not just offering it out to anybody that's interested to do some work with us. I'd like to talk to people that are interested in the capability and the technology that we're using. And if you are interested, then I'll be happy to explain why we've come to the conclusions we have, and go from there.
Tom, thank you very much. That is greatly appreciated.
Cheers. Thank you.
That was Tom Smith of Fenix Rail Systems. Tom, thank you for coming on. It was fantastic to hear about the challenges that he faced. Obviously, they have such a good control system there that really benefits from a safety, cost-effective, and time-effective perspective. But actually convincing depot operators is obviously the next challenge, that it will make the difference. And obviously going through the levels of approvals that they've had to, from bringing a German system into the UK, obviously brings its own challenges. So thank you for sharing those challenges with us, Tom, and obviously looks exciting, and we'll keep up to date with how you continue to roll out this system across the UK. So yeah, thank you for coming on, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Rail Industry Connected. You can view past and future episodes of Rail Industry Connected on YouTube, or listen to them on your way into work on Spotify. And of course, you can connect with other rail businesses and the industry on railindustryconnect.co.uk. Thank you, and see you next time.